And when you came back from Vietnam, and we've talked about some of the response that the returning troops got, there was also major change that had been going on as far as the civil rights movement in this country.
And my kids were caught up in the middle of it. Kids were caught up in the middle of it, and my wife would describe them as a little wild Afro-haired militants, because they were in California. They were all caught up in this was in the late 60s. They were all set to become Black Panthers or, any of the other militant groups. And the whole world had changed. The whole world had changed. I was so far out of it. I had absolutely no idea some of the things that had taken place. I got back in the late part of '69, and I was just somewhat naive in terms of the levels that we had ascended to. My orders were to come to Washington, D.C., and I can remember driving into Washington right at the end of the riots. And where the hell are all the people? I had no idea. It was a whole new world out there, whole new world.
And it must have been pretty difficult to adjust to it.
Very much so, especially within the military. The military had to go through some evolutionary changes. The lessons learned in one of my good friends wrote a book in Wally Terry. Wally has passed on, and entitled Bloods. And he captured some of the comments from the troops who were there. But Vietnam was a war within a war, and predominantly ground troops, the ones who actually do the fighting, were made up of minorities commanded by white officers. A lot of lingering resentment over what was happening in the States. And the military had to really, really take some extraordinary steps to get all that squared away. Post-Vietnam, all sorts of programs were initiated to deal with this issue of race. Education, exposure for all officers, all enlisted, tightening up standards to serve. And in my personal opinion, I think they've done an extraordinary job. The military, if you look at it today, I think could be an example of integration and the treatment of people according to ability and skill. But coming out of Nam, it was a handful.